Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome to week 2, Coast to Coast college football pregame show. I am your still sick as hell host, somehow, Bill Shawcross. To the top left corner, my quarantined Buckeye brother from another mother, Mr. Cottrell Simpson. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. No need for me to quarantine. I'm feeling good. Luckily, as much as I miss being in the studio, with you, I am very grateful that is not the case right now, because it sounds like you got a whole bunch of stuff that I don't need. So
No,
definitely happy about that.
I would be in a bubble today. And far, far, far away from the plague, out in the West Coast in the fresh air coming off the Pacific Ocean, Mr. Oregon Duck, Mr. West Coast, Mr. Alex Elmore. How are you, sir?
Man, I'm fantastic. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. Got Duck football today. An actual team is coming to Austin in Oklahoma State, so I'm excited to watch that game today. And I know we're going to be talking a little bit of coach beef between Gundy and Dan Lanning, so that gets me excited as well. Gets a blood boiling. 27.5 points is not enough of a line for the Ducks today. They're going to be piling it on Oklahoma State. So I'm excited for today, and it's always good to be on the show with you guys.
We are definitely going to get into that. Definitely got some coach beef going on early in the season, which you love to see. If you're listening at home, hopefully your team is 1-0 and you survived the first week. If not, I'm sorry about that, but there's always this week to hopefully get your first W. But everybody on this show has escaped unscathed so far. And one of our teams had a very big game last week that we'll be talking about, and one of us has a very big game later on this evening. So, but we got a lot to get into. Alex touched on a little bit. Obviously, we're going to start with breaking the huddle as always. We got to recap all the big games from last week. There was a bunch of them. We're also going to debut a new segment. What are we officially calling it?
Cooked or not?
Cooked or not? A little grill theme for the end of summer, early fall. Great time to be grilling. We got previews for tonight, and obviously we'll do pick 'em, and then. Like I said, the mountain has claimed at least a few ankles already. Got some sprained ankles, people just a little bit behind the pack. And I don't think anybody's fallen off yet, but we got some soft tissue injuries at least. So that being said, like I said, we got a lot to get into. So I'm gonna hand it over to my man Alex as always, breaking the huddle. Let's get it.
Shotgun, DC right, flip 90 dig, on the center, ready?
All right, so break the huddle, starting it off as always. We're going to be covering a little bit of coach beef, squaring off on their respective schools' budgets. We're going to talk about, speaking of money, though, we're also going to be talking about Florida State University being fined by the ACC for a reason that I think might be worth the fine. We also got the NCAA votes on transfer portal news. Will they be narrowing it down from two openings to one opening? We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, like Bill said, we're going to be doing the weekly recap. But to start it off, let's talk about Coach Gundy and Coach Lanning. A little bit of beef over the week leading up to this game. Gundy talking about how Oregon had almost a $40 million budget last year versus his school only having a $7 million budget over the last 3 years. Kind of throwing a little bit of shots at Oregon spending money, and that's why they're getting all these great players, which opens up an even bigger conversation, I think, which is the recruiting budget as a whole, what schools are spending and what schools are getting the most out of the money. Cottrell, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. So I think first off here, I think this is fun. I think this is a way that Mike Gundy was probably trying to get his team fired up there. But the problem is that Dan Lanning does not pull his punches. Dan Lanning will fire back, and he will make sure the target is right on you. So for him to come out and say, we spend to win, some people save to have an excuse, like, I just know he was sitting on that. Like, as soon as he heard it, he was like, I can't wait till the next time I'm in front of some cameras, because Dan Lanning is known for having the hot quotes to come out, and I absolutely love it. I think for Mike Gundy, with his team, Oklahoma State hasn't been a team that's had a ton of success as of late there. So I think this is just a way to get those guys fired up and really just get some of the stuff off of his chest. I mean, he may feel a way about it because, there was a couple years where Oklahoma State would have a team that's in the top 15, maybe the top 20. But since NIL has really become a thing, you haven't really seen Oklahoma State in the picture there. So I don't even think this is an Oregon specific beef per se that he has. I think this was just Mike Gundy being Mike Gundy. One, trying to get away to fire up his guys, but two, this is probably something that he's had built up in his mind for, who knows, the last 3-4 years. And he's finally like, all right, we finally got a team where I can actually come out and say this against, then it would actually make sense here. But as far as the recruiting side, and, you know, I'm glad that you have this graphic up with the budgets from, you know, the recruiting cycles from last year. Nick Saban actually put out a quote today, and he's basically claiming that NIL has given the Big Ten a big advantage over the SEC. And I want to just read you guys the exact quote here. It says, I mean, kids grew up wanting to go to LSU, Alabama, and Georgia. They got the money now. They don't mind going to Ohio State. They don't mind going to other places. So that geographic advantage that the Southeastern Conference may be changing a little bit now with the different culture, with NIL and the money involved in decision-making, I think that's created a bit of an edge for the Big Ten. Well, Nick Saban, I got news for you, buddy. No one is oblivious to the fact that Alabama and Georgia and all of these big-time SEC schools were paying players under the table before NIL truly became a thing. Like, I don't know who you think is like that would be a secret to, but that's not a thing. NIL hasn't done anything to, you know, make the playing field less level in terms of, you know, all the talent is going to the Big Ten or anything like that. Look at this graphic here. The proof is literally in the pudding. The top 6 teams on this graphic that spent the most money in college recruiting from the 2024 cycle are all in the SEC. And guess what? The 2 last teams to win the national championship in Michigan and Ohio State aren't even on here. So it has nothing to do with this NIL spending. You guys aren't just stockpiling all the talent because ultimately some players are going to Tennessee. You see the graphic on here. Some players are going to Washington. You got players going to Nebraska and Minnesota and Rutgers. Like, a lot of the NIL is more so just evening things out. And now that you have everybody paying players on the surface and not just getting these behind the scenes deals done, you're going to see more parity in college football. So, Nick, I'm not trying to hear it. The SEC hasn't been what the SEC was, you know, once NIL came to be, but it has nothing to do with spending because quite literally the proof is in the pudding here. And as you see, there aren't any Big Ten teams within that top 6 in this graphic. All 6 of them are in the SEC.
So to get back to Gundy and Lanning real quick before I hop on this as well. I fall more on like Cottrell's second point, and I look at it as I also think Gundy did this on purpose during this week with it being a high-profile game to kind of take a shot passive-aggressively at the school itself and be like, hey, this is the realistic look at where we're at, and we need to get our shit together and start coming up with money so I can compete with these schools, because if not, this is what's going to keep happening. So I think it was a very subtle dig at the school itself. Obviously, I agree too. I think it was something to get his players fired up as well. But again, Dan Lanning is, while I think everybody thinks he's a young coach, and he is. He's not old, but he's been coaching for a while. He's been around the SEC schools. He's now up in Oregon. He was also young when this whole NIL thing started. So he's, even though he's young, he's a very well-seasoned veteran coach when it comes to all this stuff. So he's not going to back down from it. He's going to stick up for his players, and he's going to stick up for his program in school like he's supposed to. So I go a little conspiracy theory on this one. I think it's a little bit of Mike Gundy telling Oklahoma State, administration and the president, everybody like, hey, like we gotta wake the hell up. College football is literally passing us by right now. Like, I can't sit here and compete with all 3-star guys when everybody else is spending money to buy 4 stars now, which is what's happening. So, in regards to the second one, I don't know about you. I thought it was weird that he singled Ohio State out when Nick Saban made that comment yesterday. And I don't know if maybe it was just because they won the national championship last year, or I don't know if that was like a dig at just Columbus in general. I don't know. I thought it was weird. But to Cottrell's other point, not to open a can of worms, but like it goes right up there with kind of like the sign stealing thing. Like everybody's been doing it forever. Everybody knew Alabama was paying people. Everybody knew Auburn was paying people. Georgia was paying people. Like this isn't some big secret if you really pay attention in college football. And again, like I think the audacity of it, to act like people want to go to Alabama. Like Tuscaloosa isn't some great city. It's in the middle of freaking Alabama. Like people were going there because Nick Saban was there. And to his credit, that's great. Chance to win a national championship, and you're probably going to go to the pros if you're worth a shit. That's fine. But that's the reason they're going. Don't act like people are like, oh, I can't wait to move to Tuscaloosa for 4 years. Like, come on, man. Like, Eugene, Oregon's a gorgeous place. Ann Arbor's a gorgeous place. State College is a gorgeous place. There's tons of Austin, well, they're in the SEC now. But, for all those years when they were paying people, there's plenty of other great college towns that these kids would have loved to go, but they didn't because they were getting paid to stay in the South. Like you said, it's such a level playing ground now. It's a level playing field now. You have all these teams up north that have a crap ton of money because of their alumni. Sorry, I don't think anybody in the Big Ten, where people have these huge alumni bases and these huge endowments from their alumni being successful. I don't think the Big Ten should have to apologize for the people that go to those schools. They become successful business people and they give schools back to their money or money back to their schools. Why are we going to apologize for that? Sorry. Like, then there was the whole gray shirting thing that Alabama went through, which kind of got pushed under just disappeared in one offseason because they didn't want to hammer Nick Saban. But he was pretty much guaranteeing kids, 4 and 5 star kids, guaranteeing them, spots on the team and preferred walk-ons, but just because he couldn't give them scholarships. And they would go for 1 year, and then as soon as somebody graduated, they would give them a scholarship. That's illegal. That's another known secret that's really not buried anywhere if you go read between the lines. So I don't want to hear any of it. It just sounds like spoiled milk to me. People just crying over spilled milk because you guys haven't won 2 championships in a row. It's you had Michigan in a case where you had a lot of kids that stayed in the program for 4 years. Ohio State had a lot of kids that came back and they kind of duplicated the same kind of example, and they were just better than everybody. You can't win every year with a bunch of sophomores. It's not realistic in today's game anymore because you have kids staying, you have kids getting paid, and it's just going to be a level playing field from this far out. I'm not going to say Big Ten is going to win every championship, but these runs where the SEC wins 8 of 10 every decade, that's not going to happen anymore. It's just not. So that's where I stand on all that. I'd love to hear what you say, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great conversation to have because, I love what Dan Lanning said is, hey, I don't know what their checkbook looks like over there. I have no idea. And like I said, we spend to win. Some people save to have an excuse. And to me, it just sounds like some people say, oh, maybe he's trying to like rile up his team and get his team behind him or something. But to me, it just sounds like honestly, he's just fed up being at Oklahoma State in general. But I'm excited for the game today. I won't really harp on that too much. But when we look at as far as the recruiting budgets over here, is there any teams on this list that surprised you the most? Like I'm shocked. I'm shocked as hell that Washington spends as much money as they do and have such a poor product to kind of show for it, as well as this, University of Southern Florida being on this list. Control was talking earlier to me about, there's that Florida money, but there's not one Big 12 school on this list either that's even close to that obviously that's in this top 20 at all. Is that surprising that Big 12 is not spending money? And if so, why is that?
I mean, you look at Big 12. I mean, who's the biggest recruiter in the Big 12?
Tech.
I would think you would have to say it's Dion.
Oh, in Colorado, yeah.
And he's made no bones about it that he hasn't left campus in 2 years to recruit kids. So, I
do think 2025 will look a little bit different. Like Texas Tech went on their big run.
Yeah, I agree.
Year, so 2025 budget will be different, but like Tech stunk last year. So,
but Tech got Tech got that infusion of the oil money, so I do agree. It will be interesting to see the list next year. Washington, I don't want to say I'm surprised only in budget-wise, like they're in like the top corner of the country. So like, they're probably flying pretty much more than anybody. But they have to put a lot in because they went from, I feel like Oregon would have been the same place if Dan Lanning took the Alabama job instead of, Kellen DeBoer. They had to kind of really pump money in quick to kind of turn it around because with going to the Big Ten, I don't think they wanted that, like, you know what, we'll just chalk up the next 5 years as we'll build and do it slowly. Like, I think they were like, hey, we're in the Big Ten. Like, we got to turn this around quick. Like, we got to get moving. So that's not super surprising to me. South Florida coming in at number 20 is, good for them, Illinois is a little I mean, I probably wouldn't have guessed Illinois and Minnesota. But other than that, I don't think anything like really shocks me.
For me, I mean, I would just say that the two that, I mean, of course, Florida being there, USF being there, that surprised me a little bit. But the other one, Minnesota, you touched on, and the other Big Ten school that's right there with them in Rutgers. Right. Rutgers not having the high profile guy, like at least with Nebraska, it's like, all right, a lot of that money went to Raiola. At Washington, they had a 4 or 5 star, it's a 4-star quarterback commit to them. That was a big time recruit. So like I can kind of see a little bit because I'm sure a lot of that went to the one QB that was there. But at Rutgers, like no one comes to mind like immediately as far as like the recruiting side of things go there. So I was definitely surprised to see them as high as they were.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of other factors into this, and I don't want to get stuck on this, but like, for instance, like I don't know, like this is budget, so I'm assuming everything goes into it. Like for instance, though, like I don't think the Washington football program owns their own private jet, whereas I know other schools do. Like I know Notre Dame does. I know Michigan does. I think Ohio State does. So like that is like cutting stuff down where they're not paying. Again, they're not paying to get to rent a jet to fly every 2 days. Those people from those schools are like, all right, just get on our plane and go. So I think there's a lot of different things. I would have loved to seen like what really went into all these budgets, and really. I would have loved to see the breakdown to see like where schools outspent other schools in certain categories and, how much of this is towards players and all that stuff. So that I wish we could get our hands on, which we probably can't, but it's definitely an interesting list. Because again, to both your points, I think there's a bunch of teams on here that if we did this blind, we wouldn't guess they would be on there.
I could definitely agree with that. And, so this is obviously a conversation that I'm sure this will be a yearly topic as these numbers do start to come out more and more. But I'll tell you what's not in the budget, y'all. And that is a $50,000 fine from the ACC for violating a newly enacted event security policy after fans stormed the field following Saturday's 31-17 victory over Alabama. So Florida State became the first school to get this fine. This policy was just put in place this year. But I think, for me, $50,000 well spent. How about y'all?
I'll go quick because my opinion is very simple. I think this is dumb. As a whole,
the fine or the storming of the field?
The fine.
Okay.
Because as a whole, at these big time colleges, like in this case, Florida State, like you got like 70,000 kids. I don't care how much security you have. Like if you ultimately the amount of security that you would need to stop these kids from storming the field would cost astronomically more than $50,000. Kids are going to storm the field if there is a big time win. A little $50,000 fine is not going to deter them from doing that. Like they don't have to pay for it. It doesn't come out of their tuition or anything like that. And if it did, that's a drop in the bucket for 70,000 kids, like an extra $1,000 just one time. I mean, you just throw that on your school fees and call it a day there. So as a whole, for me, I think the like trying to ban storming the field is absolutely stupid. I think as a whole, the NCAA should just do a better job of creating a safer environment for when the fans ultimately storm the field. Like field storming has been a part of college football tradition for as long as possible there. And I get it. At times it can be dangerous, but you as a whole, you need to understand and have the policies and the people in place, the plan in place ultimately to make it as safe as possible there for the players. So I think it's dumb for the fine, and there's no way to truly stop it there, especially if there isn't enough security to stop the kids from ultimately storming the field.
You mentioned the word for me that makes this argument and makes it what it is, which is tradition. It's something that separates college football from the NFL. You see it in NCAA basketball as well on an upset. It's what makes it fun. The college stadiums are built to hold 100, 105, and 110,000 people because half those people there are students. They're not, you know what I mean? You're not talking about average people just walk up and buy tickets. It's what makes college athletics great. It's part of their heritage. It's part of their tradition. It's what separates it, what makes it fun. It's what makes it like you go to a game last week, like 15 years from now, they can be like, I was at the Florida State game when we killed Alabama. Like that's what makes college football great. You can't get rid of it. To Cottrell's point, you got 40,000 kids storming out of a lower bowl that are above you. You can't stop them from getting on the field. You can put as many security guards as you want on the field. If you don't arm them, you're not going to stop the kids. And there's nobody that wants, a line of 4 deep surrounding the field of armed security guards on ESPN, getting in fights with kids. I think the one thing they can improve is this. I would say this, especially in a game, like the Florida State game, where the game was not in doubt with like a minute to go. Get most of the kids from Alabama off the field. Get them back in the locker room. I know a lot of other schools are like, to Cottrell's point, like, hey, we can't stop you from getting on the field. We're not even going to try. So, but what they do is they surround the goalpost because that is something that can get expensive or can get a pain in the butt. But a lot of times you'll see all the security guards and cops just surround the goalpost and then they let the kids go wherever else they want to go. So my biggest thing is safety, and it's safety for the visiting teams. It is, again, you don't want to see those interactions where you have a 19-year-old kid who just lost trying to get off the field and having a bunch of drunk, idiots coming off, out of the stands, jumping up and down in their face with their phone, trying to get a reaction. That's the stuff we need to get. We need to avoid that. Get as many people as you can off the field. Once the game's over, make sure you have people that can escort the visiting team off the field. And then after that, let the home team celebrate. That's what it's all about. Like, I mean, like 2 years ago, you had the people from Tennessee. They went and took the goalposts and dumped them in the river. Last year, you had, Vanderbilt. They took the goalpost and walked them down Broad Street in Nashville. Those are all-time stories. Like, that stuff nobody will ever forget. Like, we can't take that out of the game. We don't need to become the NFL, the no fun league. Like, let these kids have their moment. So that's where I stand. $50,000 fine to Florida State. That's one out-of-state kid's tuition a year. They don't care. That is to your point. That is a drop in the bucket. Nobody cares about a $50,000 fine at a big school like that. So that's not deterring anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way you could even eliminate this from being a possibility is in these big type games. Is you'd have to put a literal net around the entire stadium like they do at baseball games down the foul lines. That's the only way they'd be able to guarantee no one's storming the field. And you could even only implement it during big time games. But I mean, I think it's going to be just like you said. I think it is a tradition of college football. So many great memories, people storming the field. The only thing that I do agree with is like you raise public safety issues, public safety and player safety. You think back to last year with Caitlin Clark getting knocked to the ground by someone storming the court. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different situation. These guys are football players with pads on. It's not going to be as easy to knock one of them down. But like I said, all it takes is one incident to happen to make this a very serious issue. So I get the fine. I don't think it's going to deter anything. But I think I feel like each school should get like a warning, like, hey, you got your one.
But
Now,
Alex, to your point though about that, like I'm with you. Like player safety, fan safety, like safety is big in this. But like off the top of your head, and Bill, you could chime in too if you have one. The Caitlin Clark incident, one off. It was a big deal in the moment. Honestly, before you said that though, like completely it slipped my mind. When has there been a serious incident with fans storming the field in the last 50 years? Like one that comes to mind, you're like, yeah, we cannot have that happen again. Like absolutely can't happen.
I think of the Pistons, but I guess they went into the stands. Fans didn't come onto the court. Yeah. That'd be the only one that really comes to my mind, though.
So, like, I get it. You want everyone to be safe, and that's what the main focus of this probably is. Bill mentioned a great point. You have guards on the field. Make sure all the players get out. If you want to, you don't interview kids from the losing team after these games anyway, like right away. You can do that in the locker room. So there's no reason for those players to be just wandering there on the field. Like I get it. They want to say they're good games and stuff like that. They can do that. But it can either be later on or it could be like right away. I think if you do a better job of regulating it, like, hey, you guys have maybe even put down a clock, a countdown clock. Players got 10 minutes to get off the field. After the 10 minutes are up, fans go crazy. And that could even be like an added tradition, like, because I'm sure they're going to just be waiting. Like, if that's what you say, like, they'll wait. They'll wait.
The Ducks do that for every game where after the game ends, once the opposing team is off the field, I think it's 5 minutes, then you're allowed to go on the field with like the Oregon Duck players that are remaining on the field.
And that's great. That's a great tradition.
Bill, you have something to say?
No, I mean, again, the one I don't recall anybody seriously getting hurt, but we have had the instances in the last couple of years where somebody gets in somebody's face and somebody gets punched, and it's again that's the stuff we just have to make sure doesn't happen. Because again, being a kid who just lost on national TV, trying to get off the field and having some 5'4" pipsqueak jump in your face that's hammered, that's jumping in your face, yelling you suck and everything. Like, again, they're kids. Like, you can't have a football player and then getting suspended for pushing somebody or possibly hurting somebody in that situation. So give them like 2 minutes, get everybody off the field, and then just let happen what's going to happen anyway. So,
well, here's the issue with that. Here's what I'm going to say. Sorry to interrupt you there. Is that then you have the frenzied crowd who are people who are drinking and excited and want to storm the field. Then you have people pushing on people, and you get that like airplane effect once you land and everyone hops up at the same time. Then you're going to start getting issues in the stands where there is elevations, chairs, cement steps. Like, I feel like that would create an even bigger issue, and especially in an upset situation. These fans are already out of their minds. I feel like you create another situation with that. I think it's just the safest option is allowing them to storm the field.
Agreed.
All right. Anyway, sorry about that. I had to get the last word in there. And then we're going to keep this train moving. And we're going to talk about the NCAA transfer portal news. The NCAA Football Oversight Committee recommended a single 10-day transfer portal window starting on January 2nd. The vote occurred September 4th of this week. So essentially, instead of having two windows, one in April, one in December, one in December, one in April, they're going to try to move it to one single 10-day window from January 2nd to January 12th. It's controversial timing. The January window would coincide with the new 12-team college football playoff schedule. This may force teams in the playoff to manage roster changes while competing for national championships. As my little side note, they were already doing that with it being in December. And final approval will be needed for this to take place this January coming up. If they don't pass it by October 1st of this year, then we have to wait a full year before it takes effect. Like this, love this, hate this, go.
I've been calling for this since we started the show. I would say they almost got it perfectly right. I'll give them credit. The part of it I don't like is, to your point, if you're in the Final Four, this is going to interfere with what you're doing still. So I wish they would have pushed it till after the national championship game and put everybody on the same playing field. It still would have sucked for the teams that were in there in the end because they're not going to get a break. They would literally get eliminated and they have to go right back out, to start doing the portal stuff. But at least everybody will be doing it at the same time. I think it's better. It's definitely better for the teams. I think it's better for the players. If you're getting in, get in. And I also think it's going to cut down on a lot of BS transfers. So, like I said, I've been a proponent and outspoken about this for a while. I love it. I wish the window was a little bit longer, too, if I'm being honest. Give the kids a couple more days. It's 10 days, I think it is?
Yep, 10 days.
I don't think that's long enough. That's my opinion. I think it should probably be like 2.5 to 3 weeks, and just push it out until the season's a little bit over. But at least it's a step in the right direction for me. So I will give the NCAA credit for at least trying to do something right here.
100% a step in the right direction. But why are we making this more complicated than it needs to be? You open it up the Tuesday after the national championship game. You keep it open for 20 days, and then you close it. What is so complicated about this? And at that point, everyone can play in all their games. You don't have to worry about players opting out early unless it's like one of those situations where you're, a third string quarterback that you aren't going to play and you already had beef with your team and stuff like that. That's a completely different situation than Bo Prabula being the backup quarterback at Penn State saying, I would love to be here. I want to be a part of the team. And I was in packages in certain games, but I have to hit the portal before other teams find a guy that essentially takes my spot. So I don't know why the NCAA just can't get this portion of it right. And I guess to your point, Bill, I'll give them credit. This is definitely a step in the right direction. And maybe, 3 or 4 years from now, somebody will have the light bulb go off and think that it'd be a great idea to just do it after the season. But yeah, I mean, I can get behind this one. I like having 2 periods. I would like another period, right after spring ball is over. So the last week of April, maybe first week of May, and just have it open for a week, 10 days, maybe then. But if we only get one portal period, I'm good with that. Just do it after the season ends. I don't know why the NCAA is making this seem like this is rocket science.
Yeah,
NCAA.
There you go. Bill had to get his comment in about the NCAA because he hates them so much. There was a complaint. The reason this was even brought up in the first place is because coaches were complaining about having to balance college football playoff preparation or bowl preparation with also recruiting, keeping your guys happy, keeping them around. But I feel like the same situation is going to happen here, especially with those teams that are in the college football playoff either way. So I think this makes bowl season more entertaining because I think some of those bigger name guys may actually, still have to play, in college 1 or 2 more years will actually play in these bowl games, and want to show out, in order to get notices from other schools before the transfer portal opens. So I think that it makes the bowl season a lot more entertaining, which I'm happy about. But no, I think they just need to move it back a little bit more right after the national championship. I like that little 10-day window. I think 10 days is fine. It's going to be a jam-packed 10 days. I'll tell you that. But no, I'm excited for it.
That will be nuts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that exactly plays out. I'm hoping that they vote it in by October 1st so that we can see it happen in just 3 months from now, 4 months from now. So we'll see how that goes. But y'all, we got to recap some crazy games from last week. And here we go. We got the graphic, we got the games, we got the scores. Where do you guys want to start? I mean, it's some craziness last weekend.
You pick, Alex. Where are we going?
we're gonna, you know what? Let's save Ohio State, Texas. Save them for last. All right. That's the meat and potatoes. Let's go LSU Clemson. LSU beating Clemson 17-10, the nightcap. Highly anticipated game, arguably the second most anticipated game of the day. Gatrell, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, I will say this game kind of surprised me a bit. You know, LSU is, I would say, known for not coming out hot week one, you know, under Brian Kelly. And so the fact that after the first quarter, it was first half, it was 10-3. It looked like it was just going to be more of the same. But the one thing that I will say about that LSU team is that their offense is legit. Garrett Nussmeier he's definitely taken a step. I think it was a great idea for him to come back to school, and he's going to have the opportunity to potentially be a first-round pick after the season is up. And I think as a whole, their offense looked very fluid. There was a possession in here where they had what I thought was a touchdown, ultimately got called an incomplete pass there, and they didn't end up with any points from that drive. But I think really as a whole in the second half, the LSU offense was absolutely humming. But with that said, though, on the flip side, I thought Clemson played well, you know, at times in the game as well. I think these are ultimately two teams that are going to have the opportunity to potentially compete for a national championship this year. I think that game ultimately just showed me that both of these teams should be in the college football playoff come December.
I would agree with almost everything. I mean, I'll disagree with anything he said. Again, I think it's a week one game between two schools that I think everybody thinks highly about this year. I thought Clemson just kind of seemed to just stumble in the second half. Thought they played a pretty good first half. I think LSU is probably a little bit better than people maybe thought they were, or to Cottrell's point, they just, you know, they found their footing and their rhythm quicker than Clemson did. I think these are both schools, again, that I think we see at the end. I guess I was a little bit shocked that Brian Kelly finally won a big game on the road. Didn't piss it away somehow. But again, I didn't see anything from either school, from either team, that leads me to believe they're not who we think they're going to be 2.5 months from now, to Cottrell's point. Like I said, I think LSU just kind of found their rhythm and found their gear a little bit quicker than Clemson did. It's going to be a huge win to have on your resume, you know, come college football playoff seeding time. And Clemson, I think, a little bit of a wake-up call, but also a little bit of like, hey, we lost 17-10. We lost 17-10 to probably one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the country as we sit right now. So I think they're not feeling, I don't think they're probably feeling too down about where they are. You know, they'll have two easier games coming up here, and then they'll get into ACC play, and, we'll go from there. So Garrett Nussmeier, again, to Cottrell's point, I thought he looked really good. He looked comfortable. He was, this game was exciting to me because it was the game that had the 2 quarterbacks coming back, that I thought this game would be a little bit higher scoring and a little bit more fluid, with veteran quarterbacks back there, compared to some of the other games we're talking about where we're breaking in new kids. But didn't end up being that way. Thought it was a very good football game. And again, I think if we saw this 8 weeks from now, I think it would be even a better football game. So I don't think anything different of Clemson. I still think they're one of the best teams in the country. And again, I think LSU is maybe a little bit better than some people thought. Instead of being in that 8, 9, 10 seed range, maybe they're more of a, 3, 4, 5, 6 range. So overall, good game. Enjoyed watching it. And again, I love that all these matchups happened on week one. Just matter, it doesn't really matter where we are today. It matters where we are 3 months from now. So, but overall, I thought it was a great game.
See, I'm hearing what you're all saying about it being a great game, but I didn't think it was. It looked like Clemson completely rested everything about their game plan on Cade Klubnik's shoulders. They could not develop any sort of a run game. 20 total carries, only 31 yards, 1.5 yards per carry. We had multiple 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter of this game, in a one possession game. Like, you can't, like, the play calling was atrocious. First off, Cade Klubnik, obviously, I think he played the best of his abilities, but I think he did what he needed to do to help his team win the game. Threw the ball 38 times, only 50% completion percentage. Wide receivers got to hold on to a few more balls there. But Clemson does not look like a national championship contender to me right now. And they have to somehow develop some sort of a rushing attack and stop being so one-dimensional. And LSU, I honestly expect a little more from their offense. I would say, obviously, Brian Kelly finally got the monkey off his back and got the opening day win finally. But I left the game not really too terribly impressed with either team. And like I said, it could be because these defenses were really battling and like were showing kind of their grit, or it could be that the offenses weren't clicking, and that this game, like I said, it did not live up to the hype for me. And I said, Cade Klubnik didn't play his best game by far. And like I said, I was absolutely in shock that Clemson didn't try to establish their run more, especially on those third and short situations where they ended up throwing the ball when they should have been running it. So
I thought there was nothing to establish. Like, I think, like, your point is perfect. Like, you talk about the 20 carries and you're only averaging, less than 2 yards a carry there. That's why you're not running the ball on those third and shorts, because you're going to get stopped. And if that's the case and we're not having success there, do I trust my last guy, my senior, who's at this point should have all the experience, and Cade Klubnik, who, arguably is the best player on our roster? Or do I ultimately go with the backs that haven't had success on the ground there? I think it's in, your perspective is fair there for sure. I think it's more so on the side of both of these defenses are really good, and that's why you saw it as a lower scoring game there. So I'll be curious to see. Clemson has some tests throughout the rest of the season here, so we'll see what they truly are. But I thought LSU's defense as a whole, like, they brought back a ton, and there was never been a question about LSU's talent on defense. It was more so about what they were going to do and the actual production there on the field, and I thought they did a great job there. So I feel very similar, and I know we're going to talk about it later, but I feel very similar about the Clemson LSU game as I did about the Ohio State Texas game, in terms of the fireworks not being there.
But see,
I was going to say,
hold on a second, Bill. I'm going to jump in on this.
All right. Go ahead.
Control. You say, oh, well, they couldn't establish a run game, so they had to throw the ball. 8 of the 20 rushes were Cade Klubnik. They had the other 12 rushes were across four running backs. They let nobody get into rhythm. They let nobody get a feel for the game. They had 1 carry a quarter. The running back that had the most carries was Adam Randall, and he only had 5. Like, how do you get into any sort of rhythm in a game like this where it's going to be fought in the trenches? How do you get a rhythm to get your rushing attack going if you're only getting 2 carries, one carry a quarter? Like, where does that rhythm come from? Because, like you said, of course they're not running the ball because their running backs are standing on the sideline for 15 minutes and then getting a run one play, and then guess where they're going? Right back to the sideline while the other guys are getting their reps. They got to get a system. They got to pick a lead back, and they got to run the ball with conviction and actually commit to it. So
at what point though do you have rhythm? Like, at one point are we just saying that, hey, our guys aren't moving their guys to make room for our running backs? Like, at some point, like, rubber met road. Like, and I get it. They may have given up early. I'm not even saying that you're necessarily like wrong there, but I'm just saying that, like, watching the game, it felt like, okay, yeah, LSU's D line is dominating Clemson's offensive line in terms of them trying to run the ball, and they could have kept going at it. Like, I'm with you. Like, maybe if you keep going, like, you keep chopping away at it, maybe you do have success there. But in the even limited sample size that we had there, I just thought that LSU's defensive line was doing a great job of getting penetration and not really having any lanes for Clemson to even think about trying to run the ball moving forward there.
I agree with Cottrell. Listen, if you're an offensive coordinator, you're sitting up in the box, at some point you have to be honest about what's happening in the game. And to Michelle's point, when you're watching the linemen not make any leeway, they're not opening holes, they're not getting penetration to the second level on LSU's linebackers, and there's nothing there. You also have to remember you're playing, especially in a low scoring game like this. You're kind of playing in a vacuum that you're only going to get it. If you're an offensive coordinator, you have to know you're only going to get a certain amount of plays in this game. So it's like, how many do I just keep handing the ball off to get 2 yards to put us in 3rd and 6 every time? Like, you got to try something different. Now, if you want to take that a step further and say some of their play calling at certain times wasn't ideal to me, I would agree with you on that. But again, if you're going quarterback design runs or scrambles and you're still at 20 carries and you're averaging 1.2 yards per rush, that's clearly not how you're going to win that football game. And if you're looking at LSU's defense, the strength of their defense is that defensive line. So I just think it's just kind of one of those things where it was kind of, not a great matchup on that night for Clemson. Again, 10 weeks from now, 11 weeks from now, if they play again, it could be a completely different story. And there are parallels between this game and Texas and Ohio State, just like Cottrell said. It's week 1. You don't want to get anybody killed. And these are huge non-conference games. They're not – if you take care of do what you're supposed to do the rest of the year, they're not going to kill you at the end. So, it's – again, I agree with you, Alex, and I thought this was going to be a higher scoring game. I thought there would be a little bit more fireworks just because this game did have the 2 returning quarterbacks with a ton of experience. But it was just, again, they're both those teams are going to have top 15 defenses when it's all said and done at the end of the year. So it's just an old fashioned, kind of like you said, it's run into a brick wall, get up, run into a brick wall, and both teams were doing it. So, good game. When I say great game, I mean it was a great game, and I thought it was played at a high level, and good players made good plays a lot, and a lot of it was on defense. So you stifled the offenses. It clearly wasn't one of those 44-41 instant classic type games, but I still thought it was a really well played football game.
Alex, I'm very curious, and I don't know if this was the order that you were going to go in, but I'm very curious to hear what you thought of the Notre Dame and Miami game. Did you think that game was better? You thought that game was better than LSU Clemson?
Well, like I said, here's the bias. All right, we're actually gonna go ahead and move on to Miami Notre Dame. But here's the thing: I was raised on Pac-12, Pac-10 football. So I love action. I love offense. I love speed.
No defense.
That's okay. That's fair.
Okay.
That is very fair.
The Notre Dame Miami game was definitely more up my alley than LSU Clemson is. And last week I said it. Whoever won this game or lost this game, the results are going to be blown out of proportion. And I feel like that's exactly what's happening. Oh, my God, Miami is so good this year. Carson Beck. This is exactly what I said would happen. But if Notre Dame won, it'd be C.J. Carr, how they figure it out. Jeremiah Love is the beast. We're going to win the Heisman. Like, whoever won this game is going to be overhyped. And I think that's exactly what happened. I think it was a fantastic game. Miami almost blew it in the end there. Notre Dame started driving, actually, had some headway with their offense. But I also said another thing. Jeremiah Love's got to touch the ball 20 times for Notre Dame to have a successful game plan, and he only touched the ball 14. So I'm still a little lost for words. I know it's early in the season. Last year he was averaging between 10 and 14, 10 and 18 touches per game. That was kind of his range there. So I guess that's usually part of their game plan with him, but he just could not get things going. And ultimately, I think that's a huge reason why Notre Dame lost this game.
I agree with you a ton there. I mean, Jeremiah Love ultimately has to touch the ball more. And I also agree with you that this game is getting blown out of proportion. I think a lot of people are talking about how well Carson Beck played, and I honestly think that Carson Beck didn't play bad by any stretch of the imagination there. But I think if you take away that one-handed touchdown catch that Miami had, if that's just the regular, incompletion, or just a better ball from Carson Beck. Like as a whole, there wasn't anything about that performance that truly stood out to me. And I also think this is one of those games where somebody had to win. Like it wasn't gonna ultimately be a tie there. So I think both of these teams are overrated, and nothing about this game really changed my mind there. And how I said I watched the Clemson LSU game and ultimately thought that those were two teams that were going to be in the college football playoff, like no doubt in my mind. I watched this Miami and Notre Dame game, like neither of these two teams, like there's a good chance that neither of these two teams can make the college football playoff. TJ Carr, did he look good as far as like what he is? He's a redshirt freshman in his first start. Sure, he was okay. That was a nice, end of the game, fourth quarter, couple drives that he had there. So I'll give him credit there. But like Notre Dame's defense didn't look like this elite defense that we've seen the last few years that Notre Dame has been trotting out there on the field. And on the flip side of it, Miami didn't do anything special where I was like, all right, they can beat some of the elite teams in the NCAA this year. And then finally, to your other point, Alex, about Mario tried his damnedest to lose that football game. So I think if in these big time games, you almost have to pencil them in for a couple losses just based on Mario's coaching decisions alone.
So I'll say this. I agree with certain things getting blown out of proportion. Again, if you put your bias and your, I don't want to say it's hatred, but our dislike for certain people. I mean, Carson Beck played a pretty good football game. I thought CJ Carr at times looked good. Again, if you're a Notre Dame fan, I think you have to be at least optimistic he's going to be what you think he's going to be. With it being his freshman year and what they have left on the schedule, are they a college football playoff team? I think they're a fringe. I think I had them at like number 10 or 11. So I think if they get in, they kind of sneak in. They don't have that dominating defense to hold them in games like last year, to Cottrell's point. And Rodney Leonard's not going to be there to save the day like he did a couple times last year. That being said, the Jeremiah Love thing is bewildering to me. We had a huge thing about it last year at the end of the year, and now you start off the biggest game of your season so far this year. Like Alex said, 14 touches. This kid, I could see if he was a more of a slender built kid, and you're like, oh, all right, we got to get him through the season. We got to bring him in. The kid is a specimen. The kid is a horse. Like, give him the goddamn football. Like, I don't understand what Marcus Freeman is doing. I don't. This is 2 games in a row now where, and I like Marcus Freeman, I question the game plan. I question the game plan that you look at Notre Dame, and no doubt about it, Jeremiah Love is the best football player on that team. 14 touches in a game that you lose by 3 points, and you're starting a freshman quarterback, for lack of a better term, on the road, and your star running back touches the ball 14 times. It's not okay. It's wrong. I don't think Miami, we're going to get into this game next, but after what I saw from another ACC team, I don't think Miami's in the same tier as the other, as Clemson, which we talked about already, and Florida State we're going to talk about next. But I will say this. They looked better than I thought they were going to. And
for sure,
take that for what it's worth. That does, again, I'm agreeing with Cottrell and Alex here. That don't take that as I'm saying they're a college football playoff team, because I don't know if they are. But I think they're better. Again, I think they're a little bit better than people want to admit or say out loud. And I think Notre Dame's going to have a little bit more of a difficult season than I think a lot of people thought. I've seen a lot of people are like, oh, if CJ Carr is anything, like they're a Final 4 or Final 6 team. After watching that game, they are not that. Unless things change dramatically, I think they're a fringe playoff team right now.
Yeah, and I didn't even have them in my playoff at all. So that says I had neither of those teams in my playoff at all. So that kind of tells you my opinion about the whole thing. Obviously, I have no love for Mario Cristobal, but we could fill a whole episode with the reasons on that hate. So we're going to keep this train rolling because we got 2 more games to talk about. One of them, the biggest game of the day. But first, let's talk about the biggest upset, arguably the biggest upset of the day. Florida State 31, Alabama 17. My main man, Thomas Castellanos, talked the talk, and did he walk the walk. Control Bill. I had this as the one pick that actually hit this week. I had Florida State playing a close game. I didn't necessarily have them winning, but I knew this was going to be a game that Florida State had a chance to win. Bill, let's start with you. What's your opinion on the game so far?
I think your first sentence kind of sums up the game. Starting quarterback put a lot of stuff out on the bulletin board and then walked out in the field and backed every letter of it up. That's important. I picked the game as well. I picked it the same way you did. I thought 2 touchdowns at home in front of that crowd was going to be a lot for Alabama to cover. But I thought they were going to win the football game. And they did not. Florida State looked. I said this on Wednesday when I was on Wire to Wire for a little bit. To me, Florida State last week looked like what I think we all thought they were going to look like last year with DJU. Come in, have a balanced attack, good defense, and they were going to beat people. Castellanos, kid's a gamer. Got to give him credit. Now, I hope this doesn't turn into – this is where, for me, Mike Norvell's got to be a good coach. Be like, all right, like, we just had this huge emotional win, but you got to play within yourself still. We can't now go out and try to do things and be a team that we're not. That's how you ruin a season. So, Florida State looked good. Alabama, I think.
Soft.
I'll say this. I think Ty Simpson, played a pretty good game. That kid tried, and I will say this. He played harder than pretty much anybody else I noticed on the field on either side of the football for Alabama. I don't know how you walk into that game and come out as flat as they did. I think if you're an Alabama fan, I think you have to look in the mirror and really start to wonder if you hired the right guy. I know you are asking somebody to fill shoes that are unfillable. I get all that. And I get that as an amount of immense pressure that no matter who took that job was going to have. And, I made jokes about it last year. Like, you could have offered me $100 million a year and I wouldn't have taken that Alabama job. I would have waited for somebody else to go there and fail and then took it after them. But that being said, you still got a bunch of 4- and 5-star kids running around that aren't playing good football. Even Ryan Williams not look good. Looks like I don't know if he got concussed at the end or what. But they do not look like – I'll say this, but I'll give it to Cottrell or Alex who wants to jump in. They do not look like a team that's really interested in playing inspired or physical football. And I felt like Florida State was, and I felt like Alabama thought that game was going to be a little bit easier than it actually was. And I feel like they just kind of just never rose to the occasion. And that's crazy for me. And it's just something we're not used to because it would never happen under Nick Saban. Alabama might be in for a long season, man. I don't know what else to say.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
Control, go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So, I mean, I was going to just say that with Alabama, Ty Simpson looked like he was the one that gave effort. Like, I think Bill made a good point about that. I also think defensively, no one had any confidence on the Alabama side of things. It almost felt like that first drive that Castellanos went down and they put up the points. I mean, he was doing it with his legs. He did it a couple of times with his arm. Like, it felt like they were just like, damn, like this guy's good. Like, we have no answer for him. And this was early. And I feel like with Nick Saban, when he was there, like if you would have saw the first half of that game, you would have been like, all right, Nick Saban's going to go in. He's about to go and yell at every single person on that roster. And Alabama's going to come out and look like a new football team in the second half. And with DeBoer, and I'm not even saying that this is necessarily his fault. It's just what we're used to with Saban. With DeBoer, it felt like they came on the second half and was like, all right, let's go ahead and just go through the next 30 minutes of this football game so then we can get back to Tuscaloosa and try and figure it out for next week. Like there was never a moment in that game where it felt like Bama still had some fight left. And that's just not what you're used to seeing from an Alabama-led football team. And, you know, to all those points there, you have to give Florida State a ton of credit because they took that fight out of Bama. You talk about Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams is been looked at as the second best receiver in college football. He's looked at, you know, some people were saying that he was up there with Jeremiah or potentially better. Like they were back and forth. They're on the cover of the NCAA football game together. And Ryan Williams was a ghost in that game. There was never a point where it felt like he was going to put his imprint on that football game. And when you're starting a quarterback for a first time, I don't care that he's a senior. Your guys are supposed to be out there making plays. Bernard's supposed to be making plays. Ryan Williams is supposed to make plays. Your defense is supposed to make the job easier and get turnovers against that Florida State team. And none of that happened. So I think this is very much an indictment on DeBoer. And, you know, I'm almost wondering, has he lost a lot? Like, I think that was a game that could potentially lose the locker room. And Florida State, I don't care about the preseason rankings or none of that. Florida State might be a team that goes to the college football playoff. But there's just certain games and certain demeanors of players that really have you looking like this is something that might not be able to be fixed. And that's kind of how I left this game feeling. And that might be an overreaction after week one, but that's how I felt just watching it.
I don't think it is.
Well, they had a
Go ahead,
players
Alex.
only.
Go ahead.
They had a players only meeting this week. I believe it was Monday, where like I said no coach, just players got together and they, you know, who knows what was said in those walls. But like I said, kids are resilient. You know, like I said, Alabama can definitely turn the season around. I saw a meme the other day that said Michael Penix Jr. was such a good college quarterback that he turned an Indiana offensive coordinator into Alabama's head coach. And it made me laugh. But no, I think that the board bit off more than he could chew. I think he was riding his high with, you know, after taking Washington to the national championship game, and he was riding that wave until the wheels fell off, and he landed at Alabama, and now he's seeing the step up in competition that he needs to recruit with, and from a week to week basis, you know, it was different than the Pac-12 was. You know, you don't have the, you know, UCLA's or you know, I'm blanking on the Arizonas, you know, that are going to be bottom feeders every single time you play them. Now, every single week you got a team across you that can beat you with 5-star kids. So I think that it's just a learning curve for him, and I think that Thomas Castellanos is that dude. Like I said, he talked the talk, he walked the walk. How about Mekhi Danzy, man? 3 carries, 56 yards, had a touchdown. Dude looked unstoppable when he had the ball in his hand. So look for him to have more impact on this as the season goes on for Florida State. But I think Florida State's here to stay, man. I think they're going to be in the conversation if the ACC championship comes around.
I think it's very like we're sitting here saying like he bit off more than he could chew. And again, I think that would have been the case for probably pretty much anybody in the country that took that job. We joke all the time about like what the standard is at, you know, have it be Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, you know, Georgia, wherever. There is no higher standard than what Nick Saban left in Alabama. And to your point, like, you know, Alabama and Washington's a good school, don't get me wrong. Washington, you know, is a proud school, and you know, they're good at football. I don't even know if you I guess they're a football school, but like you could probably at least have a discussion. Whereas people die. People like hang on every breath and die about Alabama football. And again, I think it's a completely, in that aspect, I agree with you. I think he bit off more than he could chew. That I think once he got down there, I think it was even more immersive and more involved and serious than he even knew. And I'll tell you what, you look at some of the kids that transferred out and that played a year under him, but also played a year under Saban, and they're saying they don't practice the same, they don't practice as hard, they weren't as good as shape. Those are not things you want to hear starting to come out in the media from kids that left your program. And you still have kids there that played under both of them now that are like, this is my last year. And this is where you start to hope that if the season does start to go off the rails, where certain kids know they're going to be first round picks, or at least close, don't start shutting it down. And again, it's a little bit of an overreaction. It's one game on the road at Florida State, tough place to play. But again, if you watched, I keep coming back to the word uninspired. I watched Ty Simpson run around for his life and lower his shoulder and try to run a linebacker over. And then I watched other people go through the motions, especially on the defense, like Cottrell said. Nobody on that defensive unit for me in that game stood out or was like in the defensive huddle, in people's faces or running around, hitting people hard. It was it's the softest Alabama defense I can remember. And I don't mean softest as in giving up big plays of yards, just guys that weren't physical. If they play that way going to the SEC, they're going to lose football games. We just talked about LSU. LSU, I think, is better than everybody. And there's a lot of people that thought highly of them. They're better than all those people thought. If LSU was playing Alabama this Saturday, who are you picking? LSU, without a doubt. We're gonna get into another one of the favorites here in a second, but I think it could be a long year for Alabama, and I know we're gonna get back into the board here in a little bit, but I'll save the rest of my comments for that. But that is a team that I think if you play one game and you're holding a players only meeting already, I don't think that's a good sign. I'll say that.
And that's a perfect segue to the meat and potatoes. We've had the appetizer, we've had the sides. Now it's time for the meat and potatoes of it all. That's the Ohio State versus Texas game. Ohio State 14, Texas 7. Cottrell, you want to start us off or finish us off? Your analysis.
I'll start here because I'll keep it pretty simple.
Because you don't want the other option, right?
It's facts. But this game really went almost exactly how I thought it would go. I said I thought it'd be a low-scoring game, 17-13, and it was even lower scoring than that. I thought both of these teams have phenomenal defenses, and I thought Sark and I thought Ryan Day were going to limit what their quarterbacks were going to be asked to do in their first starts, essentially. I know Arch started some games last year, but this was the first time Arch had played, any games on the road. This first time going up against a ranked opponent. So for me, I consider this a, first start here for both of these guys. And you could tell they had the training wheels on both of them. Both teams had nerves. Arch threw a couple balls in the dirt. You saw Jeremiah Smith have a couple just out of characteristic drops early on in the game. Max Clare had a drop. So you could tell, like, this game, the stakes were high and they felt it. But as a whole, though, these defenses were the stars of the show. I think it's important to note here that as much as Texas did a great job of holding Ohio State, you saw a lot of punts in this one. I think the one interesting note here is that as good as that Texas defensive line is, they didn't record one sack in the entire football game. And that's a huge testament to the Ohio State offensive line there. And it really allowed Julian to not make the big mistake. And on the flip side of it, Arch throws the one interception in that game. Ultimately, to Jermaine Matthews there, and that was something that killed the Texas momentum. It felt like they were moving the ball down the field in that moment there. And as a whole, though, I'm not a big fan of the overreaction. We talked about some of the overreactions from the Notre Dame-Miami game. I think the overreactions in this one, specifically for Texas, are kind of crazy. Arch went up against arguably the best defense that he'll play all season, and he showed moments of being good. I get it. He missed some easy throws and some stuff that can't happen there, but give the kid some grace. Went up to the number 3 school in the country, the reigning national champions, on the road, hostile environment, and he was in one possession of winning the football game. So I thought this was an absolutely phenomenal game there. And of course, I walk away with questions. Like, I question, how long will it take for Texas's offense to figure it out? How long will it take for Ohio State's offense to figure it out? But at the end of the day here, I think, again, these are going to be two teams that are going to be there when it's all said and done in the college football playoff, battling it out, because I saw a ton of talent flying around the field in this football game.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Patricia definitely had Arch, questioning, seeing ghosts out there for sure. A lot of pre-snap movement. They were even talking about in the game about how Matt Patricia runs a very NFL-style defense that a lot of college quarterbacks won't see from a week-to-week basis. And Arch just absolutely looked like he was seeing ghosts out there. There was a play late in the game on a crossing route where he completely lost his form and almost sidearmed it and threw behind his receiver. It could have been a huge play that could have led to a touchdown. In fact, he had a lot of room in front of him. But like you said, Cottrell, there are moments that he missed, and I feel like that's one that really sticks out with me, as well as Texas's inability to do a QB sneak. Like, they had 2 opportunities that looked like the worst QB sneak attempts. Yes, kudos to Ohio State's defense, but those were the worst QB sneak attempts I think I've ever seen. On the 4th and 1 on the first drive of the game, and then on the 4th and goal on the one, I think it was 14-0 at the time. I'm not sure what the score was at the time, but Arch literally took 1 step forward and he was back 3 yards. There was 0 push on the offensive line, and especially after failing the first time, you think that they would be more invigorated and pushed to succeed on that second attempt, especially on the goal line. But Ohio State was able to kind of muster up, more strength and more power in that moment and drive the Texas offensive line back. But like I said, I wasn't impressed with Ohio State's offense. Obviously, Cottrell, I'm sure you weren't either. Texas defense looked good. But right now, the offense definitely does not scare me. It's the defense that scares me for Ohio State. So I think it was a great entertaining game, because you knew that with the firepower both sides had, any play could be that play that breaks open the game, or that goes for a 75-yard touchdown. There was that kind of talent on the field. So good opening week game. I really wish we could have seen this, maybe week 7, week 8, week 12, when these teams are really firing on all cylinders. But who knows? Maybe we'll see this match begin in the college football playoff.
Well, Alex, just real quick here before you hop in, Bill. You'd say that the Ohio State offense didn't scare you. Well, it wasn't supposed to. There was never a moment where they wanted to, take the top off or anything like that. And I would look at it if they can find a way to win these ugly mutter kind of games and do this, what does this team look like if they go out and score 28 points or 31 points? So I completely disagree with that. I think you have the week like today, you have Grambling coming to town. This is the game where you're supposed to figure out your offense. The next 3 matchups are where you're supposed to figure out your offense. And I think if you try and figure out your offense against a team like Texas, that's how you have turnovers happen. And, that could ultimately be the difference in winning and losing football games.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with the Arch thing real quick. So I think all this overreaction to the point where we're saying the kid can't play football and he can't do this and he can't do that is just ridiculous. I will say that what comes with that turf, though, I mean, listen, the kid, for lack of a better term, is been named, the Messiah, the Jesus Christ of college football, whatever, for the last 2 years. That's all you ever heard. Last 3, if you go back to recruiting. He's, he's going to be the savior of college football. He's the can't miss. He's this, he's that, so forth and so on. He made a couple starts last year, not against really good teams. Not in any game that was in any kind of pressure situation or on the road in an environment like the Horseshoe. So for all intents and purposes, in my eyes, he's a redshirt freshman starting his first real true road game on the road. Now, on the other hand, I also think it's crazy that people think you can't criticize him. He did not play well. He did not play well at all. And you can put some of that on the experience, the environment, the situation of the game. And all good young quarterbacks learn from that type of thing. They're kids. He's a 19-year-old kid. That's how they all learn. Some of them do it on the biggest stage in the country, which is what he did last week. His interception was an awful throw. Late, behind, in a double coverage. I mean, it's literally the trifecta of just, here, I'll just hand you the ball instead. You guys can have it. I don't want to say I told you so, but me and Cottrell sat on this program last week and told you Texas lost a lot more than people want to admit that they lost. They lost 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. I understand they have 4 and 5-star kids stepping in, but it's still a continuity thing. You had a line last year that was debatably the best offensive line in college football. That is not what they have this year. You lost their starting running back. You lost both the starting wide receivers. The defense lost a couple pieces. I think Arch, in the long run, is a way better quarterback than Quinn Ewers, but you had Quinn Ewers, who was a guy that was potentially a Heisman candidate for the last 2 years, leading that team last year that had more talent on it, and they couldn't get over the hump. So I think all this hate crashing down on Arch is a little bit unwarranted. I think Ohio State at this point is just a better football team. I think Julian Sain did just enough, and that's all they asked him to do. He had that one. Again, I said it on Wednesday. He had the touchdown pass, which he threw in a spot that only his receiver was going to catch it. It was underthrown, but it was a better catch than it was throw. But that being said, he wasn't going to make a mistake there. I think the only thing that would concern me if I was an Ohio State fan, and I said this Wednesday as well, I think their lack of push up front against the defensive front in Texas that I don't think was as good as last year's overall. The little bit of a lack of a running game would concern me a little bit. Because I feel like if you do run up against somebody that, and this will remain to be seen if there is anybody, but somebody that's going to be able to handle their defense a little bit better than Texas is right now, the ball is going to be in Julian's hand a little bit more than it should be if they can't run the ball. But Ohio State has a top 5 defense. We knew that coming into the season, and they relied on it. I mean, Julian Sain is miles right now, even right now, ahead of where Davis Warren was last year for Michigan. And Michigan won 8 games with a top 5 defense, and they literally, for most games, couldn't complete a forward pass. So if you think with Jeremiah Smith and crew and a 5-star quarterback, even though he's a freshman, under center, are not going to be a dangerous football team for the rest of the year, I'll say this. I think Ohio State has a better chance of repeating than Texas does of winning a national championship as we sit here right now. 10 weeks from now, like we all agreed. Like, I love that we had this game week 1. I would have rather seen it week 10, but we might see it again in the playoff. And both those teams will be completely different teams at that point. So, I'm not saying Texas is out of it. I think Texas has a good football team. But I think there needs to start being a little bit of, when's Sark going to win the big one too? I think Sark kind of floats under the radar. And I don't know if he's ever won a really big game that he had to win as a head coach anyway. So we'll see. But I walk away. I think they're both really good football teams. I think as we sit here right now, I think Ohio State's better.
I think that segues us kind of perfectly into our next and brand new
That's what
segment,
I do.
and that's Cooked or Not. We discuss teams, that may have struggled, and also players that may have struggled this last week of college football. If this team or player is cooked or not. So we're going to start it off with the first week. We're going to start off with some guys we kind of talked about a little bit, and this is going to be not necessarily rapid fire, but like 30 seconds. Say your piece. We're going to move on to the next. But we just talked about them. Texas starting up the season 0-1, 14-7 loss. Offense was not clicking. Defense looked good though. Cottrell, is Texas cooked or not?
All right, so I'm going to give you guys my answer here, and my scale is we're going stakes. My scale is from rare to well done. Texas is rare. Texas isn't cooked. They play perfectly fine. That's a team that could potentially win the national championship. Texas, do I have questions? Yes, but I think as a whole they will be fine for the foreseeable future here. Texas is raw. They still got time before they're cooked.
We go raw and rare, different things.
I got them as raw. Raw. For my scale, I would go rare, but for me right now, they're raw. That game meant nothing to me. They're just yep. Grill's not on, but they're on it.
They're just So
they're next to the barbecue.
They're still sitting on the meat shelf in the grocery store. All right,
yep.
got it.
They're marinating in the fridge.
Texas, cooked or not?
No, I would actually say raw as well. I would say maybe rare for national championship hopes. And that's
I'll make a scale for next week where it says the scale for
us. That's as far as I want to go with that. But in regards to with the way some people are making it sound like the Earth's going to end and the world's crashing down in Austin, it's raw for me. They're going to be all right.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. They're definitely. I was going to say not cooked, but yeah, I guess they're rare. They got 3 cakewalks coming up: San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston State. I expect their offense to kind of open it up a little bit, work out some kinks, and I expect them to be back on track in the national championship conversation. Here after a couple weeks. Moving right along. We also talked about this game also in last week's recap, but Notre Dame, cooked or not? Bill, let's start with you first.
Who are we going to? Notre Dame?
Notre Dame, yes.
Ooh, Notre Dame. I'm gonna go medium for Notre Dame. Go medium. They are on the grill. They are cooking a little bit.
Little grill marks is forming.
Yeah, at least they got decent grill marks on one side. I think they need a reprieve quickly. They need a reprieve quickly to put on the cooling rack, or they might be in trouble.
So for me, I got Notre Dame as medium rare. I do think they got a little heat on both sides there. Still a lot of pink though. I think there's still a lot of room for Notre Dame to continue to be cooked here. But I also remember that their schedule is light. I know they have a game against A&M coming up, but at that point, that can ultimately turn it from medium rare to medium well, quick, fast, and in a hurry. But right now, I'll go medium rare just because I think they had some things that they could feel a little bit good about.
Notre Dame is going to be this year's Indiana. Mark my words.
Well, see, last year's Indiana made the playoff, though, and I don't think Notre Dame is. In fact, I have Notre Dame as medium well right now. Almost 2 done on Notre Dame. Notre Dame has only allowed more than 21 points in seven games over the last 3 years. They're already 1-for-1 in this season, and it does not get easier as they play. Yes, they're going to be at home, but they play Texas A&M next week. Then you look at the offensive play calling. Last year, they were a run-first team, and it helped. They had a mobile QB in Riley Leonard, which I don't know if CJ Carr is as mobile. Obviously, he's not as mobile as Riley Leonard. The judgment is still out on him to see what kind of quarterback he's going to be. But they did not establish a running game, and they were not able to establish a running game against Miami, which did not let them control the clock. which made their defense actually get tired throughout the game. They're not giving Jeremiah Love the ball. I have no faith in CJ Carr as of yet. And like I said, I think they're going to start the season off 0-2. And if that happens, I think they're going to be well done. So I think Notre Dame is medium well right now. So,
all right, start us off with Nico.
Let's do Nico. Okay, well, Nico, I have him also as cooked. I have him as burnt. I have him as he's well done. I need to send this back and get another steak sent out because I can't eat this. I don't know if there's anything. Then again, I don't know who's more cooked, if it's Nico or if it's UCLA, because Utah absolutely whipped on UCLA over the weekend. And Nico did not play well. They were 2 for 11 on third down. He only had 50% completion. And I mean, on their one touchdown drive, they opened and closed with a touchdown pass, sandwiched between 8 running plays. If this UCLA team is not the style of offense Nico needs to be playing in, I think not only is UCLA and him cooked, I think if he doesn't get out of UCLA, his NFL hopes might be cooked.
Yeah, Nico for me is well. I'm not quite well done on him just yet, but he is very well. Like there's no pink on Nico at the moment. I think ultimately UCLA was a horrible decision for him, not just because it's UCLA, but it's also because of leaving the known in Tennessee. UCLA is a bad football team, and we knew that coming in. And I know I talked about, UCLA on the Big Ten show, and I said Nico was that kind of talent where he could potentially elevate them. Well, clearly that's not going to be the case there. Like, he didn't even have an opportunity. Like, if you watch the game, Nico really didn't even have an opportunity to really shine there because Utah was all over that UCLA team defensively there. So I'm going to go well here for Nico. I think Utah has a really good defense. So I'm curious to see Nico against, a little sister of the poor, like some smaller schools there. We know the back end of the schedule is daunting.
I think it's UTEP or UNLV today. I think that'll be a good equal matchup for UCLA to see what Nico can do.
Yeah, so I like to see them against a bad team or a middle of the road team, and not a team like Utah who is consistently putting out really good defenses. So I'll say well, but I think if you blink, you might come back and Nico is well done. And like Alex said, you got to send it back to the kitchen.
Bill, how about you?
Y'all being way too nice. Way too nice here. Nico is gone. Nico is off the grill. Nico, I went inside, I came back out, and the dog stole the steak off the grill and ate it. Like, Nico is gone. He was well done, chopped up. My dog is in a coma because he ate the whole steak by himself. What are we talking about? Like, we're talking about, let's see him play against UNLV or some BS team that's not as good as Utah. Like, this dude was a long shot Heisman guy last year. Made the Boner of the Year award and left Tennessee to go to UCLA, and then gets trounced week 1 and looks terrible while doing it. No, cooked, done. Fire everybody around you. Get a new steak. Start over. Get back in the portal. Get out of UCLA, and go save your career somewhere else. My dog's still sleeping. He ate you. You're done.
Well, Bill said what he had to say. Control, we'll start off with you on this one. We're going to go to the right side here. Kansas State. I didn't have them originally on the grill. Control, you mentioned throwing them up for the offering. Want to start us off? Is Kansas State cooked or not?
Kansas State is medium well right now. They are well on their way to getting in the Nico category for me. I think with their first game, obviously not a big deal. It's one game, no problem. It is an in-conference game though, so like that hurts just being 0-1 out the gate there. But the following week, when you play North Dakota, who is an FCS school, and you have absolutely no answer for their offense, like you ultimately had to have a 2-minute, you had to go through a 2-minute drill to score and ultimately win that football game in the end. So Avery Johnson, he's been good. He's been as advertised, good player. Their defense couldn't stop a runny nose with 105 tissues. So for me, Kansas State, they are medium well. And I'm nervous for what they're going to look like in conference play if they can't stop North Dakota.
Bill?
They're well done. And the only reason they're well done, they're still on the grill, because this was the steak that was next to the steak that my dog stole with Nico. I saved this grill. I saved this steak, I mean. Dog can only get one steak off the grill. I got this one before he ate it. It's still well done, though. They had no business winning that football game. None. They should have lost. Alex, I can't even explain to you.
I got this. I can't
even explain to you the text that I had written out. I was literally just waiting to hit send. I literally watched the last 3 minutes of that game.
Send it.
I typed it up. It was hilarious. My thumb was on the blue arrow, and then they blew it in the end. Oh God! I was going to put you on the grill, Alex. Alex, your face would have been on this graphic next week.
Look, man, Kansas State.
You got a
raw,
reprieve though.
Okay, Kansas State is raw. Look. Listen,
raw.
Hear me out. Hear me
out.
Brother. Hear me out. Hear brother. Okay, let me talk. Okay, Kansas State lost week 1 to a rival conference opponent in another country, and then came back to Kansas, suffering from jet lag, to play a team on their very first game of the season. Okay. Yes, they have not played up to their potential. The defense does need to kind of straighten things out a bit. But I believe in Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson is an absolute stud. 591 yards passing over the first 2 games of the season, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions so far on the season. His decision making has been the correct decision every single time, and they just really need to shore up their secondary. And I anticipate them doing that this weekend today against Army. So. Yes. Has it been a rocky start? Yes, but Iowa State's looking like a solid football team. We're going to talk about them in previews today. And then, like I said, North Dakota played their absolute hearts out, absolute underdogs. They had nothing to lose, and they left it all on the field. They played a great game against Kansas State. Oregon also had a close call last year against Idaho. So I'm not going to judge them off this game. They still found a way to win. That's all that matters. I have them as raw. This is how it is.
But it's so different with Oregon, though. Oregon didn't have – like that game against Idaho that you're talking about, Idaho didn't score 37 points and literally didn't have the lead with 50 seconds to go. Like that wasn't the case with that Oregon game. And with Kansas State now, you can trust Avery Johnson all you want to. He's been really good this year. Like I can't say anything bad about Avery Johnson. He's not the problem. The defense is the problem. Like at some point, Avery Johnson can't do it all. So raw is crazy, Alex. Like
rare
crazy.
Is wild. Rare is wild. I will say this. All kidding aside, they play Army today.
Yeah.
Army lost to Tarleton State last week.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know who the hell they are. I don't know who the hell they are.
Like $150,000 to come to Army and get to beat them.
Correct. So if that game is anywhere remotely close today, Kansas State stinks.
Oh, I don't care if that game is within 10 points. It's Kansas State is burnt. They're past well done.
We're moving on.
Dog.
Alabama, cooked or not, control.
Alabama is well. Alabama is well. Look, Florida State, they played well last week. But it goes deeper than how they looked on the field as far as talent goes. It's about heart, man, and you can't coach heart out of some kids. So I got a lot of concerns there with those kids and if they believe in DeBoer or not. I'm going well. I think this can get real bad real fast.
Bill.
It's a tough one for me.
I don't think it's that tough.
I think I'm like a really solid medium well. Like the one side, like one of Kellen DeBoer's ass cheeks is done. Like it's done. Like, and we're just going to decide if we're going to flip it or not. Because if we flip it, it's going to be done real quick. Like I think we are literally teetering on the edge here. And then again, I think I think their season can get out of control in a bad way really, really, really quick. And if it does, it's going to get real ugly in Tuscaloosa. So I'm going to say medium well, and the spatula is under the steak.
Yeah, I mean, I have Alabama is cooked. I mean, again, when I did this, I was just either cooked or not cooked. So I'm saying they're cooked. But no, I'm gonna go medium as well. He said 9-4 in his first year in the SEC. Not the worst first year as far as competition upgrade. Stepping into Nick Saban's shoes, 9-4 is not a terrible first season. I think Alabama fans could have lived with it as close as they were to making the college football playoff. But starting off 0-1 year 2 is absolutely unexcusable. 2-4 on the road. You know, when Nick Saban was there, the Alabama Crimson Tide were a feared team to come into your stadium because you had to hold serve, and when Alabama was coming to town, chances of you doing that were slim. Now teams are not, teams are not concerned with Alabama coming to their home stadium anymore. 2-4 is unexcusable. I think Kalen DeBoer is definitely on the hot seat, definitely at risk of losing his job. If he does not turn the season around, and I'm talking like 2 losses or just the one that they have already, I don't think he might not be at this program come a year from now. So I think realistically, I should have put Kalen DeBoer. I should have put a Kalen DeBoer steak on the grill instead of Alabama as a whole. But I have them beating right now. Last but not least, we talked about him a little bit with that Texas-Ohio State game. I think we kind of said our piece, but let's just refresh everybody's memories for people who are just coming in. Cooked or not, Arch Manning.
Did we start with Arch?
No, we started with Texas. I wasn't sure how the segment was going to go, so we included them both. But yes, we got Arch. Is he cooked or not?
He's still in the cabinet for me. He's not even on the grill.
He's not. Is he on the plate though? Is he on the plate? Is he next to the grill?
No, but somebody's looking through the glass at the grocery store, interested in buying.
He's defrosted. He's defrosted.
He's defrosted. All right, I'll go with that.
So I think Arch isn't at the grocery store anymore. I think he's at home, but I think he's in the fridge. Like I think Arch is marinating right now.
He's marinating.
He's marinating.
He's marinating. He's just
got a little fridge. You marinate your steaks, Control?
I mean, it depends, how I'm feeling. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Listen, I love it. I love it.
Depends on the mood that day. But right now, though, Arch isn't. He's not in the process of getting cooked. I still got him as raw. Look, first game this season, top 3, top 5, top 10, whatever you want to call Ohio State's defense, perfectly fine there. Give him some time to get his footing in. I think he'll be perfectly fine there. Now, if he looks like this against, UTEP, then we're having a different conversation. But right now, Arch is still in the fridge, man. He's raw.
Yeah, I have to agree. I have him not cooked as well. Like I said, top-notch defense on the road. Teams essentially getting their natty, their natty banner hung up right there in front of the fans, basically. Like it was a rocking atmosphere, and I don't blame him for how he played. Obviously, would like to see a little better performance from him, but I don't think he's cooked yet. I think he's purchased. I think he's at home. I think he might even be out on a plate, ready to take out to the grill, but he's not on the grill yet. But that was cooked or not, y'all. We'll decide if we want to continue this. Say in the comments if you think we should continue doing cooked or not. Maybe we'll have a little bit more criteria. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. We're fine-tuning it, but I like it so far.
I will say this. The graphic is incredible. I think you did a great job. I think we need to say for next week, I think we have to come up, stick with the steak scale, or just say cooked or not. I think we got to figure out which way we want to do it.
Got to figure it out. Control likes the cooked levels. All right.
I really like the levels too.
There's different levels to cooked, Your cooked might not be my cooked.
Man, I do not want to know how you ordered your steak.
Medium well, man. Medium, or depending on where I'm at, medium. It depends on where I'm at.
God damn.
Medium or medium well, depending on where I'm at. If I'm at a top tier steak place, gotta go medium. If I'm like not just one of those, Texas Longhorn maybe, then I'm like, gotta go medium
all right,
well.
But if you're ordering you shouldn't be ordering steak at like Applebee's anyway.
Anyway, that was cooked or not. We're not going to argue steaks right now. So we are almost to game time, less than 20 minutes to go. And we still have some games to preview, y'all. So here we are, games of the week. I figure we could save Oklahoma, Michigan for last as the game of the day. Hence the star in the background. I figured maybe, just maybe, Cottrell, you want to pick where we start?
Let's go around the horn how we did before. Let's go ahead and start with the game right next to it. Iowa State. And I will say, honestly, my picks for actually 3 out of the 4 of these are going to be rather quick. So don't have like too much to go into it. So you can have me go first, have me go last, whatever the case may be. I'll be quick with my
let me do a quick introduction. Iowa State Cy-Hawk Trophy up for grabs. Iowa State is 3.5-point favorites. Over under is 43.5. Cottrell, who's going to win this game?
Iowa State. Iowa State wins this football game. I think they are the better football team there. And then ultimately, I think Iowa State plays a more clean game. I think it's going to be low scoring. You're going to have a matchup of like 21-17. Like, I think it's tight. But I like Iowa State to pull out a nail biter.
Bill, Iowa State. Go
with the Cyclones, baby, at home.
Wow.
And they bring the Cy-Hawk Trophy home. Same thing.
Look,
I know you want to put all this false hope in the Hawkeyes and your golden boy quarterback, but I gotta agree with my man Cottrell here. This just screams a clean Matt Campbell workman-like performance out of Rocco and the boys. Give me the Cyclones at home.
Look, man, this is absolutely ridiculous. Iowa State won last year on a heartbreaker for Iowa. Iowa has not lost at Iowa State in the last 5 times they played there, and that trend is not stopping this year. 2 completely different styles of offense. One airs the ball out with the best of anybody with Rocco Becht in Iowa State. The other one's going to run the ball down your throat. Ran the ball 53 times last week, only threw the ball 16 times Iowa did. They had 310 yards on the day, just under 6 yards per carry. Iowa's going to absolutely own the time of possession in this game and absolutely shove the ball down Iowa State's throat. Iowa has the most superior, has the best secondary that Iowa State has seen all season. I think this is the game where Rocco Becht really needs to see what his wide receivers are capable of, because the previous secondaries have not been top-notch in Kansas State, and I forgot who they played last week, Sister the Poor College or whoever it was. So this will be Iowa State's first true challenge and probably arguably the best defense they're going to see all season. I think Big Ten prevails. Iowa takes home the Cy-Hawk Trophy and continues his dream season rolling on down the tracks. So I have to go with Iowa.
Question, Alex. Mm-hmm. So if this is the first test that Iowa is seeing this season, does that mean Kansas State wasn't the – yeah.
No,
so if this means that
secondary will be the biggest test Iowa State's seeing this year.
Okay, secondary. So just secondary. Okay.
Secondary, yes, correct. And that's how their offense rolls is through the air.
Correction there.
No. You guys, we can watch it back. You'll see I said secondary. I just speak fast because I'm from California. Get it over, right?
California.
Hey, now we're going to keep this ball rolling, though. We got 2 for Iowa State, 1 for Iowa. We all know who's going to win. Obviously, Iowa. But we're going to keep it going clockwise. Probably one of the games I'm most excited for today. Kansas at Missouri. Missouri 6.5-point favorites. Over under is 50.5. The border war is what it's called. Being played. It used to be played every single year. Now this is the first time this game has been played since 2011. So this game is bigger than it appears. 2 unranked opponents, both undefeated. Helmet to helmet clashing. Cottrell, who you got winning this game?
Another easy one for me. I like Missouri. I like what I saw out of Missouri last week. Bo Pribula looks like the guy. He was absolutely a perfect fit in that Missouri offense there. And I think, on the flip side of it, with Kansas, Jalen Daniels is a name that we've talked about since the inception here of this show. And I think he has a ton of talent there. But I think Missouri's dangerous this year. 6.5 is a very interesting number there. I actually like Missouri, and I like him to cover. I think Jalen Daniels in a spot where he can't really do it all himself there. And, yeah, I think Missouri is going to be all systems go here in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see Bo Pribula. Obviously, last week they were supposed to split time at QB for Missouri. Sam Horn went down on the first series of the game. And then Bo showed exactly what Bo can do. He looked fantastic through the air. 283 yards passing, 65 yards on the ground, totaling 4 total touchdowns. Bo Prabula is going to be a household name at the end of the season if he continues playing like this. Obviously, Jalen Daniels, another fun quarterback to watch, 6th-year guy in Kansas. So obviously, I'm a huge fan of him. Those 6th-year guys, if they're 30 years or older in college, I'm a fan. 456 passing yards this season. He's also rushing for a career best 5.9 yards. To me, I have Missouri winning this game, but I think the best bet on this game is going to be the over a 50.5. I think they're going to blow past that in this game. Bill?
I'm gonna complete the old sweep here. Be easy. I like Missouri. I think they're a more complete team. Sorry, excuse me. Jalen Daniels is great. Like Cottrell said, he can't play all the positions, and he doesn't play defense. As great as he is, as dynamic as he is, I think he'll probably have a couple great highlights in this game. But I like Missouri's defense a lot better than Kansas. And Bo, unlike Nico, Bo looks like he made the right decision for himself in transferring out of Penn State. So I like Missouri here, and I think they cover as well.
All right. Next up, Illinois at Duke. Illinois is 2.5-point favorites. Over under at 49.5.
This game is at Duke, correct?
Yep, at Duke. Team on the right is the home team.
Oh man,
this is the hardest game to pick in my opinion. Darian Mensah played out of his head last week. The most passing yards for a Duke quarterback since Riley Leonard threw for 391 yards in 2022. So it's been a couple years since a quarterback for Duke has thrown for almost 400 yards. Duke looks phenomenal. Duke looks phenomenal on offense. Defense looks a little bit to be wanted. Then of course you got Illinois, like highest expectations. I'm struggling to pick this game. I'm not sure which way to lean.
I'm gonna lean Big Ten here. I know it's away. I'm gonna go with Illinois. I'm gonna go with Drew Allmeyer and the boys. I think I like that they're gonna be able to lean on the running game. I still like their defense. And to your point, I think if they can run the ball well, control the clock a little bit, keep that Duke offense off the field, I think they can kind of really control the game a little bit and really dictate their style of play. 2.5 on the road tells you all you need to know. They're expecting a close game. I'm going to go with Illinois and a lot of that senior leadership and experience here to lean on. And I think Brett Bielema and the boys get out of Durham with a win.
Well, guess what? I think we have our second ACC find coming. I think you're going to have those smart-ass kids storming the field. I think you're going to have the upset. I got Duke winning this football game. Look, ultimately, I think Darian Mensah is the best, going to be the best player in this football game. I think it is going to be absolute fireworks in it. But ultimately, for me, I like Duke winning the game, and I think they take care of business against Illinois.
I've been listening because I wanted to kind of get you guys' input on where this game is going, and I really want to see Illinois win this game. I do, but I can't get off the Darian Mensah hype train right now. Duke looked fantastic last week. I like what Duke's putting together offensively. I think for me the easiest take is going to be that 49.5 over under. I think that they're going to blow past that. I think this is probably more of a 60-point game. I think this could be a 32-28 slobber knocker. Got to throw that word in for the day. Yes, exactly, Shelly. But no, I think as much as I want to see Illinois pull it out, I'm just excited to watch this football game today. I think Duke might win it, but I think the over is by far the easiest pick for me. But we're on the last preview of the day, arguably the game of the day, the only ranked matchup of the day, and that's number 15 Michigan going to Oklahoma to play number 18 Oklahoma. Bill, we let Control start off last week. Let's let you start off a little about how you think this game's going to go.
I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to live up to the hype. I do. I think it's the two very high-profile quarterbacks, John Matier and Bryce Underwood. I think you have an Oklahoma defense that looks like it's better from last year for sure, but not really so much test it yet. I think you're really going to learn a lot about it after tonight's game. And then you have a Michigan offense that, again, it's going to go up against the better defense that it played last week. I'm really curious to see how much more of the playbook they expand and how much, they let Bryce, play a little bit more. And then I think you have John Mateer. He's going to play against the best defense that he's ever been on the field against. And I think if you look at his splits against good defenses versus bad defenses, they're very staggering and they're very telling. And I think when push comes to shove, I think Michigan's going to be able to play bully ball. I think they're going to be able to run the ball with Justice and Jordan Marshall. And I think Bryce will make plays when he has to. I think he showed great decision-making last week. I don't think he's going to put them in any kind of trouble. And I think the defense will take care of business on the other side. So I think Michigan goes into Norman and picks up a huge win.
Trail, take it away.
All right, so I also have Michigan winning, but I don't think it's going to be a necessarily dominant performance there. I think Brent Venables is going to make life hard for Bryce. I think he looked good last week, especially as a true freshman. But I think Brent Venables is going to throw stuff at him that makes him uncomfortable, makes him question what he's seeing and things like that. And so I think this is going to be a lower scoring football game, but in lower scoring football games, I typically lean to the team that I have, more confidence in their defense. And to me, that's going to be Michigan. So again, low scoring game, but I like Michigan to kind of eke out a tight one down in Norman.
Well, I didn't actually give this preview, but Oklahoma is 5.5-point favorites. 43.5 is the over/under. I'm really excited for this game. Bryce Underwood versus John Mateer is what this game comes down to in my mind. Both had a fantastic week one, but also both get to see a step up in defense compared to their week one matchups. I'm really excited. Due to 9 different receivers, and he ran for 24 yards for a score as well. I really like what Oklahoma has to offer in this game. I think that the inexperience of Bryce Underwood is ultimately what's going to kind of cost them the game. And John Mateer is a huge competitor. Not saying Bryce Underwood is not. I don't think there's any way John Mateer allows Oklahoma to lose this game. I don't think Oklahoma covers, and I think this is a lower scoring game than people anticipate. I think Oklahoma does pull out the win at home against Michigan. Like I said, the inexperience. I think something's going to happen in this game that's going to show Bryce's inexperience in the pocket or with a decision on an errant pass. And John Mateer has just been there, done that, and he's going to single-handedly control this game. I think the 24 yards of rushing last week was light work, and I think we're probably going to see over 50 yards rushing from him and another 300-yard passing performance. And I think Oklahoma wins.
He's never been there, done that against a good defense. He's never come close to those numbers against a good defense.
I mean, Michigan just gave up 17 points to New Mexico. And
we played our third stringers half the game. They're not going to play on Saturday.
Okay. Well, you can be defensive, and that is okay.
I'm not being defensive. I'm just going by numbers. Look at his numbers against bottom 100 defenses and then top 50 defenses. They're staggering. He's 10 percentage points lower, and he has 4 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Staggering.
We will see next week when we're talking about how Michigan is 1-1 and Oklahoma is the truth.
Oh, John Mateer just can't beat a good football team.
Either way, it's okay. I understand, man. When someone talks bad about Oregon, I get defensive too. Ask a truck. He does it all the time. But that's previews for the week. Any last thought on any of these games or any other games you're looking forward to before we jump over to pick them and take a look at the mountain? Because we are about to have kickoff, y'all.
No, I got nothing. I think this is a lighter week, so had a lot of fun with what we went through here on the show. But like you said, we are almost to kickoff, so I'm ready to rock and roll through Pick'em and take a peek at the mountain.
Let's do it.
All right, so I'll go ahead, throw up the graphic here. I clearly stunk it up last week, but shout out to Iowa for getting me 11 super dog points, not covering as much as they should have there. Bill off to a nice 2-1 start there. Alex is somewhere right there in the middle, better, more wins than me, and then just right under super dog points. So very interesting week from the three of us here. I gave all my picks out on Wednesday, so I'll just fly through mine here real quick. And then, you guys can fight over who goes second and third there.
I'll go second because mine will be super easy, and I'll just let Alex have the time.
So first one for me, I like the over 47.5 Virginia Tech versus Vandy. I think both of those offenses are going to absolutely light it up. Vatek had a lower performance there against South Carolina, but I think they will show up against Vandy, and you know what Diego Pavia is going to do. And then I think the next two games here are bounce back revenge games. First up, I got Clemson minus 33.5 versus Troy. I think they go out. They're like, hey, look at us. We're Clemson. We're a top 10 team. Look at what our offense can do. Same thing with Alabama. I like Alabama minus 36.5 versus Louisiana Monroe, just to try to make people forget about that drubbing that happened last week. And then for my super dog, I have USF plus 18.5 at Florida. I think that money that we talked about them spending in 2024 is going to pay off for them. I think they're going to keep this game real tight against Florida. And, you know, I think this is a game that could potentially come down to the final possession. And I'm saying it now. Do not be surprised if USF wins that football game. Those are my picks for the week.
There was breaking news late last night. I don't know if you saw it, so I don't know if you want to change your pick before kickoff. Starting quarterback for South Florida suspended for the first half of that game.
That is false news. That is
I
not
heard
real.
it wasn't. All right. I swear it was on 3.
It was no 3 because I saw the same report that you're talking about.
No 3. Making fun of me now. I'm going to post on mine in a second because I got to post my stuff for Wire to Wire as well. So I will tell you, I'm taking Michigan plus the points. That is one pick I'm going to take. And I'm going to post the other two in a couple seconds here. So all my picks will be up on the website on the page. So Alex, you can stroll through your picks here.
All right. I love the mentality and the thought process behind Cottrell's picks of, hey, Clemson's going to cover, Alabama's going to cover. They want to show what they can do. And I completely agree with him, but not with those teams. That first pick is going to be North Carolina. Last week. And if you don't think he's going to come out with all his offense on fire, putting up points against Charlotte this week, you're absolutely crazy. I think North Carolina wins by over 3 touchdowns for that game. Next up, I got Kansas State minus 17.5 versus Army. Kansas State has not had the hottest start as they were expecting. 1-1 on the season, lost to Iowa State as a rival, and beat Little Sisters of the Poor this last week. I expect Army to score less than 10 points in this game. If they do score more than 10 points, I will by far put Kansas State on the cooked scale. I have Kansas State obliterating Army in this game as 17.5 points. We're going to the Cy-Hawk Trophy, Iowa versus Iowa State. I'm grabbing the under 43.5. I think this game is going to be another slobber knocker of an Iowa State game. I think we're looking at another traditional Iowa 17-10 win. Iowa's going to win this game, but also, like I said, the under is by far the best play you can make for this weekend. And as my super dog, Cottrell had them as one of his picks, but I'm picking the opposite, so you know that I'm going to be right. Troy, I had him at 31.5. Cottrell, you had him at 33?
That's what I saw. Again, this was on Wednesday, though, so if things change now, you get them at wherever they're –
Friday. So 31.5 point underdogs versus Clemson. I think Clemson's coming off a poor performance, and Troy will do everything in their power to limit Clemson's time of possession. I look for 2 names to be the reason why Troy covers. Quarterback Goose Crowder, whose dual threat capability is going to cause Clemson frustrations in later downs, and the running back Tay Meadows, who will 100% be in the transfer portal and carrying the rock at a higher profile school next year, as he had 186 yards rushing, 8.1 yards per carry in week 1. I think he's going to find success against Clemson. He's a tough runner, a north and south type of guy. And like I said, they're going to try to control the time of possession. And I think that Troy may lose this game by 3 touchdowns, but it is not going to be by 32 points or more. And that's my
To the mountain we go.
To the mountain. There's been some movement on the mountain. Obviously, the teams that have moved up a notch on this mountain are teams that have beaten either a ranked or strongly previously ranked or a strong opponent. Obviously, Ohio State beating Texas, LSU, Clemson, Florida State beating Alabama, and Miami beating Notre Dame gave them a little bit of a leg up versus the other teams who are still undefeated. Then we got Baylor, Kansas State, Alabama, all stubbed their toes on the mountain, sprained an ankle, hurt a knee, got something in their eye. They're being taken back to base camp to make sure that they are fit enough to continue competing for the Eliminator Mountain Championship. This is where we're standing.
So no punishment for Texas?
No, losing to the number 3 team. Why would there be? Alabama is up there
Still
because
lost?
of how they lost to an unranked Florida State team. Yes,
But
just like the College Football Playoff Committee, we're not going to hold good losses against teams.
I'm with you there, Alex.
It doesn't eliminate them from the College Football Playoff. Baylor's lost.
I didn't say kick them off the mountain. I just said they're the same level with people who at least have a win.
Yeah, absolutely, because they played the number 3 defending national champions in week 1. I'm not going to kick them off the mountain for
I didn't say kick them off the mountain.
Well, where am I supposed to put them? Down here in the grass below the mountain?
Listen, Bill. Texas had a first
just like they ate some grass and they ate too long and they turned around and everybody else went up the mountain a little bit.
Listen, Bill, Texas had a first aid kit with them. Bama, Kansas State, and Baylor didn't. So that's why they got to get flown back to base camp and get their stuff straightened out. Texas had the first aid kit. They came prepared and they're still ready to rock and roll. No, Alex, I'm 100% with you there. I think it was the right decision there with Texas. The only small gripe that I'll give you, and this is just me nitpicking here, it looks like Florida State's a little higher than Ohio State on the mountain, and I don't know how I feel about that. But
no, Ohio State's just on a peak that's farther in the distance away, so it appears.
Okay, so it's the depth.
Like
it's the depth.
It's the depth.
Okay,
exactly.
Okay.
The Big Ten is a little bit farther back on the mountain range.
Okay.
Yeah, they're coming up the backside of the mountain.
I got you. Okay.
So but also, Florida State beat Bama. That's a huge win for them. But no, I did not do that on purpose.
Okay. Hey,
there's a method to
to your logic, nobody had a better win last week than Ohio State. Ohio State should be up there in the snow somewhere then, according to you.
According to me, man, Ohio State wouldn't even be on this mountain. It's time. It's kickoff. I don't know what we're doing here still. I got to go watch some. What time does Iowa play? Are they first game up at 9? I got to go watch this game.
It should be a noon kick.
Yeah, I think it is.
But we are done. We're going to wrap up where you got here because, like I said, I got 7 anxious hours to wait out here, but everybody else has got games to go watch. So, as always, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to our nonsense, but also a lot of fun, as always, and a lot of factual information. Thanks for listening to me cough, and we will be back next week, as always. Hopefully, I'll be not sick, and everybody else will be here healthy and ready to go. So we're going to sign off here. Enjoy everybody's day. Go have some drinks, go have some beer, maybe some steaks, and go watch some college football. So we'll see everybody next week.